You go down to the Caribbean, to Trinidad, then to Brazil, and then over to West Africa, and then up to Morocco.
So what are they in Morocco for?
Just 2 days after the president passes through Trinidad, in mid-January, he meets Churchill in North Africa, in Casablanca, the capital of Morocco.
Patton, Churchill, Hopkins, and Roosevelt are all there for the great Allied conference at Casablanca.
Interesting.
Dawn says some of the signatures on our bill do appear to have been collected in London by Harry Hopkins. But it seems Roosevelt's globe-trotting ambassador gathered the rest of the names 6 months later in North Africa.
This conference would be something worthy of commemoration.
Oh, sure. It was very, very important in the history of World War II and actually world history.
The plan agreed upon that summer in London, Operation Torch, had been a success. In November, 65,000 British and American troops had hit the beaches of North Africa and quickly bloodied the German army. Now, at Casablanca, the tide had turned, and the Allies made a dramatic pronouncement.
6 months earlier, it would have been impossible for the Allies to call for the unconditional surrender of their enemies. But after the successful landings, that enabled Churchill and Roosevelt to call for the unconditional surrender of Germany, Italy, and Japan.
Harry Hopkins was in Casablanca, and so was his short snorter.
What was Harry Hopkins' role here?
What Don told me next shed a whole new meaning on Gary's document. A short snorter is a drinking game.
Drinking game?
Yes. And your short snorter is an original.
Fantastic.
But that's not all. Dawn Van A had explained how Gary had a unique record of two of the turning points of the Second World War. America's decision on how to join the fight and the Allies' decision on how to end it. But it was more than this. It was an intimate record of friendship and trust, of a special relationship between Britain and the United States. It was this relationship which would ultimately help defeat Hitler.
There were significant differences in strategy and outlook and style, but things like the short snorter note helped bridge those differences.
In our 10-shilling note, we can see the skillful diplomatic hand of Harry Hopkins, bringing powerful men together for a common purpose. It wasn't just the agreement made, but it also meant the conversations, the personal relationships were as important as the official discussions taking place. So you have a very incredible piece of history in your hands.
I had no idea of the importance of the document. So what you've uncovered is absolutely incredible.
June 6, 1944. Just 16 months after Casablanca, Roosevelt and his advisors finally got their invasion of Western Europe. Operation Torch had bought time for the Allies to strengthen their military, and in 1944, British and American troops stormed into occupied France on D-Day. Less than a year later, on May 7, 1945, Germany surrendered.
Whether reaching over ballpark railings or hanging out by stage doors, autograph hounds can be a persistent bunch. From school kids to multi-billionaires, almost everyone has an idol they'd like a piece of. While some are hunting for a memento from their favorite star, others are simply trying to turn a profit. In 2001, a very rare autograph of Button Gwinnett, a signer of the Declaration of Independence, fetched an incredible $110,000. Occasionally, a signature will drop in value, like that of Alfred Lord Tennyson and Leon Trotsky, as their popularity fades from the public eye. Dead pop stars, by contrast, always sell strong. If you pick the right name and can find the real thing, historical material usually outperforms traditional investments. But be careful. The FBI estimates that as much as $500 million may have been spent on bogus signatures. So buy from a reputable dealer. Our final story investigates how a powerful symbol of freedom may have played a key role in the aftermath of the Civil War. Few images from American history have the powerful symbolism of the Liberty Bell. While this relic from the country's revolutionary past is now cracked and mute, its message of freedom has resonated for over 200 years. Today, on display in its Philadelphia home, millions come to view the bell each year. But few realize that in the late 1800s, this icon of patriotism may have been used as a pawn in a political maneuver that would impact the country for generations. Now, a woman from Charlotte, North Carolina has an artifact from that period with an outlandish claim.
Supposedly, this is an actual little piece from the Liberty Bell itself. I've always really wondered if the family story is true.
I'm Elise LeRae, and I've come to meet Sandy Fisher to find out more about this small pin and its big claim to fame. So what is this I hear? You have a pin that was made from the Liberty Bell?
That's the family story.
All right, let's check it out.
Okay.
So tell me, how did your family come to own this pin?
Supposedly, it was owned by my great-grandfather, John Murphy Stratton. There he is.
Nice. Nice mustache.
Yes, I love the mustache.
What do you know about him?
Lived in Philadelphia. Not much else, maybe some type of city official.
Sandy's only clue about why her great-grandfather may have gotten the pin comes from family legend.
There's been talk about a Cotton States Expo.
Cotton States Expo? That sounds very Southern to me. What would cotton have to do with the Liberty Bell? Now, do you know how they got metal from the Liberty Bell to make the pin?
No, that really is a mystery. I mean, was a piece of the Liberty Bell itself actually chipped away to make this pin?
What can I tell you?
Well, my question really to you is, why did my great-grandfather get this pin? And is it, in fact, really a piece of the Liberty Bell?
Could a piece of one of the country's most revered symbols really have been melted down to make what is apparently a mere memento? All right, my first impression is that it seems to be some type of souvenir, maybe mass-produced. This looks like the seal of Philadelphia. Let's turn it over. Oh, his name's engraved on the back. Oh, well, maybe it's a little bit more special. Oh, and there's a maker's mark. It says, I, Beddickmer, Philadelphia. I wonder what I can find on this metalsmith. Here he is, Beddickmer I, Masonic Marks, Society Emblems and Jewelry, Philadelphia, 1890. As an appraiser, I investigate items like this all the time. Let me check some of the databases I use. There is one account of a Beddickmer medal selling at Christie's in 2001. So this tells me that his work has value. Beddickmer was obviously a well-established maker in the 19th century, so whoever ordered this pin went to one of the very best. If this is a piece of the bell, it makes sense a top-notch metalsmith might have made it. It's clearly not a mass-produced souvenir. But what is it? Sandy mentioned that this pin was somehow related to the Cotton States Expo, but it says on here Philadelphia Councils. So I'm thinking I'd probably better go to Philadelphia. First stop, the city of brotherly love, and a visit to the icon at the center of this mystery. Here it is, with its famous inscription. Proclaim liberty throughout all the land, and to all the inhabitants thereof. Well, I have to say, the bell itself is really inspirational, and it's actually very powerful. It's very symbolic. It's clearly had some work done, and the bell is a little rough around the edges. Let me see if the Philadelphia Free Library has anything about the Cotton States Expo Sandy mentioned. There's no reference to it in these local histories. Of course, why would there be? Pennsylvania wasn't a cotton state. Let me see what I can find on the internet. In 1895, there was a Cotton States Expo in Atlanta. This is a reputable website, and it makes perfect sense. Georgia was known for cotton. But it doesn't mention Philadelphia at all. Let me add Philadelphia to my search. The Liberty Bell comes up, so that's good. 1895. Bell traveled to Atlanta for Cotton States Expo. Why would Philadelphia send its prized possession, the Liberty Bell, all the way down to Atlanta? And what does Sandy's great-grandfather have to do with it? Census records should have more detailed information. Stratton John M. Here he is. Okay, Philadelphia. Let's see what he does for a living. Caterer. That doesn't make any sense. Sandy said he was some kind of city official. The census is only taken every 10 years. Let me look at government records for 1895. Here he is, John M. Stratton. And in 1895, he was part of the Common Council. There was the Common Council and the Select Council that made up Philadelphia's government. Now it's starting to make sense because the pin says Philadelphia Councils. The city government was probably involved in the Bell's trip. I'm going to check the local newspapers. Bound for Dixieland, the old Liberty Bell starts upon its journey south, given a glorious farewell. Immense crowds viewed the old Liberty Bell as it was drawn through the streets on a truck. Oh, and this is cute. It says, au revoir, but not goodbye. And it's a cartoon of the Liberty Bell going off to Atlanta. This was a huge event for the city, but how exactly was Sandy's great-grandfather involved? And here he is. He was on some type of committee that was in charge of taking the bell on the train down south. This must have been a big honor for Stratton. They probably could have had pins made for the guys that went down south. That makes sense. So far, Sandy's story is checking out, but I'm not seeing any mention of mementos being made from the bell. And why did Philadelphia send Stratton and the bell to a cotton expo anyway? I'm headed to Atlanta. It's a short flight, certainly easier than Stratton's 4-day train ride. And in 1895, the distance between North and South was more than just physical. The Civil War had deeply scarred the South, and its agricultural economy had never recovered. By the 1890s, while the industrial North was booming, the South remained the poorest region in the country. Today, Atlanta is a racially integrated and dynamic southern city. But in the 1890s, when Stratton was here, racial violence against African Americans was at an all-time high. So what on earth was he attempting to do bringing the bell here? To find out more, I'm meeting up with Harvey Newman, a professor at Georgia State University. Here is the pin I was telling you about.
Oh, the Liberty Bell.
Well, that's why I'm here. I'm trying to figure out the connection between the Liberty Bell and the Cotton States Exposition. There. Okay, Harvey offers to show me where the expo was held. On the way, he fills me in on what Atlanta hoped to gain from the event.
The major reason for the exposition was in order to showcase Atlanta as a place for northern investment.
We're in Piedmont Park, the site of the expo. In 1895, this area was full of exhibition buildings, but this staircase is one of the only remaining structures.
On opening day, they had a crowd estimated at 25,000, and again, for a city of only 75,000 people, that was a large crowd.
More than 800,000 people came to the expo during its 15-week run. So it was a big deal, and a lot of people came. But what does the Liberty Bell have to do with all this?
Well, the Liberty Bell was an important national symbol, and to bring that here showed in a very tangible way that Atlantans felt that the Civil War was over and that they were ready to reconcile and be a place where northern capital could come and build factories.
You know, this whole thing seems very political to me, almost like a PR stunt.
It definitely was a PR stunt.
So I get why the South wanted the Liberty Bell, but why in the world would Philadelphia let this prized possession come all the way down south? Well, Harvey tells me that northern politicians like Stratton felt there was much to be gained by bringing the bell to Atlanta.
This was an opportunity for northern bankers to provide investment capital for this region that needed it very badly.
Atlanta rolled out the red carpet for Stratton and the Philadelphians, even declaring a Liberty Bell Day.
Look at some of the headlines. Our bell